Beth is calling. I will answer a call from Beth. She wants to know if she should try for a baby. I was going to keep Beth and Stuart with just the one child. Wasn't expecting this call because I wasn't going to actively play this household. But I think I'll maybe say yes. And that gives the second household a bit more variation, I suppose. Editing Callie here, just a small note. Half of this video was recorded with my original microphone and the other half was recorded with a new microphone. The new microphone is supposed to be of better quality, but I'm not sure that I like it. So if it doesn't sound good, let me know in the comments below. Thanks. So part of the Decades Challenge is that each decade will be marked by something a bit different as the main theme. 1790, the main thing that happened was that print media became mainstream. At the moment, the house has been built without a bookshelf, but I will add one in and the Sims will be able to read books, and that will be the thing that is unique about the 1790s. So with that said, we will start in 1790. And I'll just show you a couple of changes that I did end up making to the house. It does look a little bit different. There's the chicken coop being added and a run for the chicken coop. I've added a little bit of landscaping. I added a pond with some fish in it. And at the back there's a hot tub that this sort of stony hot tub that I've tried to disguise with some flowers around it. Because the bath that I had, it takes so long for the Sims to get clean in it, I needed another option for them to have somewhere to go to try and get clean. And out here I have the two stalls, that's where the two toilets are, and it's just the basic wooden toilets. And that's the bath in there, just the basic wooden bath. The sleeping areas are there. There's really just the two rooms. There's the beds back here with their little half walls segregating them all off from each other, and the bath. And then the next room has the kitchen area, dining area, and the fireplace / living room area. And then the other half of the house is where Maisie the cow lives, and the chickens live on the outside. And the decorations are up because in the gameplay I was doing last week, I got to the end of spring and it was Easter. So the decorations were up for Easter. But I can take those down now because Easter has passed. So just to show you the family tree here, we've got Robert at the top here with his daughter Elizabeth, who's married to Stuart, and they have their son Bruce. Bruce is currently an infant. Robert's married to Mary and has the two daughters, obviously Penelope and Elizabeth, or Penny and Beth as I tend to call them. And this week I will be aging Bruce up to a toddler, so that will be one visit that we do to the other household. Other than that, they won't be very heavily involved in the storyline. So I have Mary doing some flower arranging, which maybe wasn't really a traditional skill back then, but it's something to let her have a creative outlet. Not really doing it so much for money. I'm also doing it to allow me to control the lifespan of the Sims, because she can create the bouquet that allows me to kill a Sim prematurely when I need to. Simply because I won't be having the elders live for very long. In the 1790s, people didn't live very long lives, so Robert will not be living for the duration that an elder Sim would normally live in the game, so I will be manually controlling when the Sims age up and when they die, obviously. Also, something that would have been traditional for a family living in this type of house and in this type of environment is that the women would have been a little bit more hands-on. I know that usually for the Decades Challenges, they say things like the women just do the housework and the men just do the manual labour. There will be a little bit of manual labour done by the women. Penny very much helps out with like milking Maisie and feeding the chickens and cleaning out the chickens and cleaning out Maisie's shed. She doesn't do things like the woodworking or the majority of the gardening. In fact, she doesn't really do any of the gardening. That really is just Robert that does stuff like that. But she does help with the care of the animals. Mary doesn't so much. Mary is more cooking and cleaning and flower arranging and cross stitch and things inside the house. But Penny is a little bit more hands-on at the moment. I did put the wild prairie grass challenge onto this lot as well, just because it's an opportunity to cut the prairie grass and we can use it to feed the cow. So we get that benefit from it. We can sell any excess prairie grass that we've got. And also anything, sometimes you find harvestables in the prairie grass, so any harvestables that I find I've been planting and growing. Now this phone call here about the childminder, childcare assistant, I've never had this call before, and I just found it so weird. that in the one save file where there was no chance I was going to be looking for an au pair, I get a call from someone basically offering to do that for me. And I'm not sure when that came along. I'm not sure if that was one of the patches or updates, or if that came with, I think Life and Death was the last pack that I bought. But I've certainly never had that call before. And I have had new save files up to fairly recently and never had it. So it was quite strange, especially to get the call after I'd already moved the child out of the house for several days. The call should really have gone to the other household. It should have gone to Elizabeth's household. But anyway, it is what it is. So this week of gameplay will be 1790. And the plan for this week is that Penny, who already sort of has someone in the village that she's got her eye on, will develop her relationship with him and get engaged. And that will be the main thing. In the main household, we'll just be introducing who is going to be Penny's husband, ultimately, and the father of the next generation in this household. And in the other household, I am going to age up Bruce to a toddler. And as Beth did call asking if she should try for a baby, there will now be 2 children in the other household because I said yes to this. I will keep an eye on the other household over the next couple of weeks of gameplay, because this week in 1790 I will be aging Bruce up to a toddler, but I will also keep a note of when the baby is actually born and possibly rename it if it gets named something that's ridiculous, because I don't have control of that household. I'm not actively playing it. And I'll keep track of the date of birth effectively for the second child. I'm keeping a little spreadsheet tracker of when everyone's birthdays are and how old they effectively are. Life expectancy was obviously lower back in the 18th century, 18th moving into 19th century as the story is at this point, and over time has become longer, which I'm going to try to represent by having the Sims in most of the life stages for longer over time. I'm only going to have them as babies and infants and toddlers for a set amount of time, up to the age of about 4. And then after that, how long they are a child, teen, young adult, adult and elder, I will gradually extend as we move further through time in the Decades Challenge. At the moment, they aren't going to be spending very long in any of the life stages. The average life expectancy at this point, especially for what is effectively an outdoor living farming household like this, was mid to late 30s. So that's kind of how long, rather depressingly, this family will be living. So there will be a higher turnover of generations for the first few decades of playthrough, but that will change over time, as it will in anyone else's Decades Challenge. Also, one of the other rules that I had seen in the Decades Challenge, one of the significant things they do is how they deal with war. And the way I'm playing this and the way I've set this up to be a farming household, in Britain, the farming households and farmers were exempt from having to serve in war because they were needed to continue farming to supply food. And I'm going to stick with that. What I am going to do instead to introduce that element of risk to life expectancy is I'm going to acknowledge things like pandemics and disease outbreaks. And when there is something like that in place, I have a little system that I will use, which is going to put everyone in the household at a chance of dying. But there weren't any major recorded pandemics in the 1790s, so we won't see that for this particular decade, but it will be something that comes into play very soon. When it does, I'll explain what it is and how it will work. I'm having Robert do some fishing so that we can get some more fish to add to the pond on our lot, and one of the foxes is here. The foxes all seem to be really attracted to Robert for some reason. I've tried interacting with them as Mary and as Penny, but for whatever reason they seem to prefer Robert. I don't know if it's because he's got the country caretaker aspiration, but I'll have him carry on speaking to them because at least it'll discourage them from trying to eat the chickens. The chickens are, obviously they're in the chicken coop, but they're also surrounded by a fence and a gate, and the gate is locked to everyone but household members. I've done that in the past, and that's been enough to stop foxes getting the chickens, because the fox is treated as something that's not a household member, so they can't open the gate. So although they act like they're going to try and take the chicken, and although you get the warning messages, they tend not to. And I've played households where I've literally fed the chickens and done nothing else, and I've still not had any risk of the foxes catching the chickens. See, I'm getting a warning message there about foxes, but I'm not concerned because, like I say, as long as the gate's there and it's locked, I've never had an issue with the foxes taking chickens before. I think I do have just a slight bug or slight error in the background of my game, because although I've moved Beth out, she keeps coming to visit, and when I go somewhere with just Penny, Mary follows, even without me asking, which is normally what happens when you have a child sim or a very young sim. If you try to get them to travel without the parent automatically follows. And because this family was an existing family in another save file, and I force aged up the children from infant stage to adult stage, I sometimes think that some part of the game thinks that Penny and Beth are still infants and that they still need to be around their parents. It's a little bit odd, just some of the interactions that they're having. It's like the game still thinks that the two grown women are little children. It's not been too disruptive. I've just been aware that it seems to be going on occasionally. And Beth doesn't look pregnant yet, so I don't know if she did actually try for the baby or not. I'll probably wait a day or so till I visit her to age up Bruce, and at that point I'll see if she's starting to show as pregnant so that I know whether she actually did try for the baby. We do successfully have some fish in our pond on our lot. It's only trout, but I'm going to get Robert to catch at least one, and we can put it in the fridge and we can use that to eat. I've got the Simple Living Lot Challenge on this lot, so we need to catch and grow all our own food. I'm also trying to keep it quite realistic with the plants that I'm actually growing. Things like mushrooms, root vegetables. For the giant crops there, it's just like lettuce, pumpkin. I mean, you wouldn't really have got pumpkin in the north of Scotland, but I'm trying to keep the vegetables and fruits that they're growing to try and be local ones, to try and keep it a bit more realistic. I'm going to see what Agatha Crumplebottom wants. Don't know why she's asking if Robert's coming again, because Robert hasn't left this lot. Penny's the only one who's been down into the main part of Henford-on-Bagley. I am still answering phone calls. I know it's not really on theme for the Decades Challenge to be using a phone, but you can't stop your Sims from using a phone, unfortunately. There's possibly a mod for that for PC players, but I am not a PC player. And answering the phone has actually been useful because when I get things like Beth's wanting to call to speak to another member of the family, I can do that, and it helps keep the relationship with the other household high by keeping them in contact with each other. And things like when Beth called to ask to try for a baby, it's allowing me to still have a little bit of control over the other household as well. So I am still answering phone calls. If it's an invitation to go to a party somewhere, or the circus, or any of those other, or do the 7 wild dates or something like that, obviously I'll just hang up and ignore it. But especially when it's a family member, I do answer the phone calls, but my Sims are not actively making phone calls, and I'm not actively using the phone as far as possible. Obviously I have to use it when I want to travel to another lot, but other than that, I am not using the phones. I started out when I did my week playthrough of the family having Penny milk the cow, and I'm at a point where Penny's the only one who's got any relationship with the cow. So I kind of just have Penny do all the interactions with the cow, which seems to work out fine for now. Once she starts having babies, it might not be so practical, and I might need someone else to take over. So at that point, I'll probably get Penny's husband to try and bond with the cow so that he can take over milking the cow and looking after the cow. So I think this might be a little bit of a scandalous moment in our 1790s Decades playthrough, as Mary and Penny are out in the hot spring out back. Rory has come to visit, and Rory is Penny's love interest, and Mary is flirty with him and trying to flirt with him, which is not ideal. Rory is someone that Penny knows and has a really good friendship with, and throughout this week she will be developing a romantic relationship with him, with the idea being that they will get engaged by the end of the week, and he will be the one who takes over as the head of this household ultimately. So the name of the farm will be changing. At the moment it's the Duguid family. It's going to change to Rory's surname, which is MacDonald, but that won't be until after Robert dies and Penny and Rory take over as the leaders of the household. Since Rory is here, I will have him and Penny become best friends and spend some time together. I wish Penny would put some clothes on. because it's not really appropriate for her to be going around like that in 1790, but this will allow me to develop their relationship a little bit further. All of these Sims that are here are from one of my main playthroughs that I do that I don't record, and Penny and Beth were genuinely children from the relationship between Mary and Robert. There were two other children who were boys who I didn't include in this particular playthrough, and Rory was from another household, two Sims that I created. He was their son, and he went to school with one of Penny's brothers. He was the friend of Penny's brother and ended up becoming Penny's husband. And in my current playthrough, they have two children together as well. That's in a separate file. But because I knew this family so well and I'd enjoyed playing with them, I thought the easiest thing to do was just to change their appearance a little bit, change their clothes to make them more appropriate, and bring them across into this file, which is what I've done here. And unfortunately, because this family is a family that I'd played with before, although effectively they should be brand new coming into this save file, they seem to have carried over some of the quirks that they had in my main playthrough. Like, Rory had the top-notch infant trait, and Penny and Beth, they'd had a bad upbringing. And that had influenced some of their characteristics. And Rory was a very rebellious teenager and had no empathy when he aged up to a young adult, and I think he's maybe brought some of that into the save file. Robert likewise had a bad midlife crisis and had a lot of anger and frustration, and he keeps randomly getting angry in this save file as well, so I think some of that has unfortunately come across, but I'm going to keep working through it. I'm not having a lot of luck with my chickens. I have never actually... This is terrible. I've never actually played with a rooster in the coop before, but I put one in this time thinking I can breed my own chickens this way with the rooster, and I've had eggs that have been hatchable, but when I put them in the coop, that's fine, I can see that they're there, but then the next morning when I ask the sim to clean out the chicken coop, they take away the hatchable egg and put it in the trash. So I haven't managed to hatch any baby chickens, so I'm probably just going to have to buy them and pretend that I've hatched them. But I am still going to keep the rooster anyway, because it's quite nice, I think, that the rooster crows at 5 o'clock in the morning when all the other animals are waking up. It's quite a nice start to the day, and it's quite on theme for this being a farm. I'm on my way into the other household. Here it is here. It just says British Mansion. This is actually a lot that I took from the gallery, which I will show here. And this is where Beth and her husband live, along with their son Bruce. I haven't made any changes to this house, so I'm not really even sure if it's set up for having children, like if there's infant beds or toddler beds, but I've literally just come across to this household to get Beth to make a cake so that I can age Bruce up to a toddler, and also I'm going to have a quick look and see if Beth is actually pregnant. And I can see that she's got the pregnant moodlet there. So that's good. She is actually pregnant after saying she was going to try for a baby. So now I'll just keep an eye out for when the baby is actually born. One, to get its date of birth so that I can track it and progress it along with the other household. And also so that I can control the name that she gives the child, because it can't be something that you wouldn't expect to come across in 18th century Scotland, otherwise it's going to break the immersion a little bit. And once I've aged Bruce up, I'll be able to get him into some period-appropriate clothing, because when I aged him up to an infant, I didn't bother changing his wardrobe, so I will do that as well as part of this exercise. As Beth's trying to make the cake, Stuart's just come in here to scream incoherently at her because he's scared of the thunder because he was outside so long. But I'm going to say yes to him having the paranoid personality trait, because he probably should be a little bit quirky. Stuart is supposed to be, obviously, a rich older man who's maybe not as practical as the other members of Beth's family are. So we'll get Bruce to blow out the candles here, age him up to a toddler. And I am going to choose the personality traits. I don't know if normally for the Decades Challenge it would be a case of randomising personality traits, but I am going to choose the personality traits for all of the Sims, partly based on time period and partly based on what my experience of them are. Because Bruce is born into this wealthier household, I'm going to try and find an appropriate personality trait for him. So let me just see what my options are. Okay, I think I'll make him fussy. I wasn't sure about independent or fussy, but I'm going to go with fussy because at the moment he's an only child until the other child comes along. He's the first child of this wealthy household, So I think it's appropriate that he should be fussy and a bit of a pest. And let's see how he looks. Okay, so Bruce doesn't look too bad, so I'll probably just change his wardrobe and that'll be him ready to go. As it is Tuesday already, I'm going to have Penny and Rory go on a date. I believe that now, with the new Lovestruck expansion pack, there is options to have, it's not called a chaperone, but you can effectively have a chaperone on the date with you. So I'm going to get her to bring her dad along, because the idea is that she's, obviously, it would be appropriate for her to have other company around when she's out with a man. It wouldn't be appropriate for her to go out with a man on her own in the 18th century. And I'll get her to bring her dad along to introduce him to Rory and to kind of get his sort of approval, if you like, before we proceed to them getting engaged. So it's now Wednesday. I've invited Rory round to the lot, with the idea being that I'm going to get him and Penny to get engaged now. You can see there's just a little bit of a romance bar going between them. So I'm going to develop that a little bit further to the point that they can actually get engaged to each other, and then we'll celebrate their engagement, and I'll have some sort of party for that, and I'll bring round the other members of the family, and it'll also let me see how Elizabeth is coming on with her pregnancy. So Rory's story is that he is just a sort of boy in the village who works on another farm or another croft, and he has probably even less money than Penny's family. So because of that, he can't take Penny into his household because he doesn't really have one, so he will be moving in. And as she is the daughter and can't really take over the farm, he will be coming in to take over the farm as her husband, and they will continue to run the farm. Hers is obviously more a match of love because they've grown up together, they've been children together, their farms have traded between each other, so they've known each other since they were children, and that has developed over time and into a romance. And after her older sister married for money, that took all the pressure off of her and allowed Penny to be free to marry for love, which is what she's going to do. Of course, it's really difficult trying to get this going when either Mary or Robert keep interfering and trying to join the conversation. And I don't know if, again, that's also a carryover, because this is a family where technically in the game code Penny was an infant and hadn't actually progressed through her ages. She was artificially aged up to a young adult in Cass. So whether that's something that's just lingered in the background of the game somewhere and it's a bit confused sometimes, but I'm just going to forcibly remove Robert from the conversation by getting him to go fishing, because he and Mary keep making it an awkward encounter. And this will be Mary coming to join the conversation now as well. So I'll get her to go and arrange some flowers so that she can leave these two alone so that they can try and have some flirting interactions. Okay, that's going a little bit better. Rory and Penny are both in a flirty mood now. It's a steamy exchange, not that they will be doing anything about that, as it's not appropriate right now, but I will let them have a kiss and I'll let them develop their relationship there, and that's good romantic satisfaction begins. So that's them kind of securely into a relationship together now. So that's great. I'll now keep working along with their relationship. So I could have circumnavigated this by switching households and taking control of Rory, but to save myself a little bit of time I just continued playing this household, and I actually had Penny propose to Rory, which obviously isn't the way around it's supposed to be, so I've left that footage out. But the point is, that is them now engaged. So I'm going to plan, it's now quite late, it's after 10:30 at night, so I'll plan for tomorrow night, for Thursday, for them to have an engagement party, and I'll invite over the other household and we'll have everyone together and have a little bit of a celebration. Here we are here, engagement party, and Penny and Rory are the hosts, and we'll invite Elizabeth, obviously Mary and Robert, and Stuart and Bruce. That's all the family. The other people that are appearing there are the welcome wagon. When I was building the lot, I did actually mean to put on the private residence so that I didn't get a welcome wagon, but I kind of forgot. So I did actually end up getting a welcome wagon when I first started playing through. So there are a couple of other people in Henford and Bagley that we know. I've tried not to develop the relationship with them because existing EA townies, I didn't want to have to go through and put them all into period dress. So I've just not developed those relationships. And obviously we're having the engagement party at our own house, so that's it all set up in the calendar there. And Penny and Mary are just having a wee chat about what the future holds for Penny, how things are going to change, and what married life is actually like. Apparently it's like the Loch Ness Monster. Mary's a bit of a drama queen, I think. Hopefully it's not quite as bad as that. As Penny is doing her morning chores the morning after the engagement party, Rory has come around to visit and Mary is out there to have a chat with him and just grill him and just make sure that, as it is a marriage of love, that he is good enough for her daughter and that he behaves himself, and she tells him he better be a good husband. And Robert joins in and gives poor Rory a grilling as well. And everyone has changed into their glad rags because it's time for the engagement party. And Rory and Beth are outside already, and Beth is looking quite a bit more pregnant, which is good. She can't be far away from giving birth. I don't see Stuart or Bruce anywhere. Oh, there they are. There they are, right at the edge of the lot. There's Stuart and little Bruce in his little waistcoat and suit trousers like his dad. And there we have it. Everyone is together to celebrate the engagement of Penny and Rory. It will be 1791 before they actually get married now, but they will get married at the start of the year. And for now, it's just nice to have everyone all together, one big happy family. Everything's going fine, everyone's looking healthy, Bruce is growing, Beth's got another child on the way, Penny's soon to start her own family, and everything's looking nice on the farm in 1790. I was just putting Penny to bed, and I've come back through to the living room to find that I had opened a bottle of nectar, and I've come back through here to find that Robert is drinking out a glass, and Mary has just decided to take the whole bottle and just start swigging from it. So they're having a jolly wee celebration themselves. They're just extending the festivities after everyone else has gone home and Penny's gone to bed. Mary and Robert thought they'd continue the party on a little longer themselves. And here we have Beth texting Penny to say, "It's pretty cool that you became friends with Stuart, who is Beth's husband." And as it is Friday, we're effectively near the end of the week and therefore near the end of the year. So I'm getting a notification that tomorrow is Midsummer, which is the end of year celebration for 1790. So I will start making some preparations for the celebration of that. And that celebration will mark the end of 1790 and the end of this week's episode. As it is 1790 and we mark this decade by saying it was the start of print media, I've added a table into the living room area there beside the chairs, and I've added that bookshelf. It's the cheapest bookshelf in build buy mode, and it's actually from the Cottage Living expansion pack. It's only 10 simoleons and you get all these books. I'm also going to use this to add in a couple of skill books here and there as well, to just help me bring along the skills of some of the Sims, because they won't be living very long lives. It's going to be a little bit impractical trying to build their skills to the level they would need to be at for things like cooking, so that they're not setting everything on fire straight away, and gardening so that they can continue to develop the garden, which is their source of food and their source of income. And Penny is up very early again, but it is now the start of the day and it is the start of midsummer, and you can see the goals for the day there. The first one is to decorate, which has already been done. The other thing is they have to have party spirit, have mischievous spirit, and play games. So they do have a chessboard in there that they can play games on together. And mischievous spirit and party spirit, they'll check those off just by interacting with each other accordingly. In order for this to really feel like a proper celebration, I'm going to make sure that all members of the household check off all parts of the requirements for this holiday and that they finish it feeling very happy. It'll give them that boost going into the next day, that they'll have the successful holiday happy moodlet. But also it just sort of helps round out the end of the week, the end of the year, and close off this chapter of the story. So Robert is out working on the farm right now, so I'm just working through Mary, and I'll get her to do some mischievous things with Penny. And that's her checked off the mischievous spirit part of it. She's partway there with the party spirit, and then I'll get her to play a couple of games, and that should be her done. And Penny's making good progress as well. She's almost there with the mischievous spirit. She's there with the party spirit, so I'll just need to get her to play some games. And Robert's made a little bit of progress as well. He's had some of the mischievous spirit and some of the party spirit as well. Mary, it looks like she's checked everything off because she's got a full yellow bar, but she hasn't played any games yet, so I'll get her to do some of that as well. but based on the fact that she's checked off the other 3, she would still end today with a "the holiday was successful" moodlet the following day. So that's us pretty much done. Robert has done a little bit of everything. He's not totally done everything, but he's done enough that he will have a successful holiday. Mary has done a little bit of everything. She's completed a few things and definitely will be having a successful holiday. And Penny, likewise, has done a little bit of everything as well and has done enough that she will have had a successful holiday. So with that, the days end quite early working on the farm because the family are usually up quite early as well, so they will be going to their beds soon. You can see their Penny's getting sleepy. And as we near the close of the day, we near the close of this episode and the close of this year, 1790. So next week we will pick up and do 1791, and it will start from the Sunday morning, and it will be autumn because the season will change. And the goals for next week are that Penny and Rory will get married, and Penny will become pregnant and possibly even actually get as far as giving birth to their first child. Beth will have had her baby, her second baby, who we will go in and check the name of and then age up to an infant. And we'll see what else happens throughout the week and throughout the year of 1791. And with that, that's the end of the episode for now. If there's anything else that you would like to see happen or anything that you'd like to see me do differently, drop a comment down below and let me know. And if you want to keep track of this series, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks for watching. After editing, I did just go back in and check the MacLeod household. The baby has been born and they have named him Alfred. So it's another son. Alfred is not a super stereotypically Scottish name, but it's also not totally inappropriate, so I'll just keep that name.